And we're back after a brief break. Special thanks to our sponsor, River City Hospice, 882-5900. If you have any questions, if you have a loved one at home with Alzheimer's, is on dialysis, it has heart problems or lung problems, or cancer, and half of hospice is cancer, you need to call for any questions. There may be benefits that you're not using. 882-5900. Call River City Hospice. Joe Flores recommending it. Nurse practitioner and attorney. Our sponsor, River City Hospice. Call them for information today. 882-5900, and talk to your physician and ask questions. What is hospice? And get that information. So we're back, and Politics with Teeth is our show. South Texas Crossfire, and we have our sleeves rolled up. We're talking about politics with Homero Villarreal, the editor-in-chief and the publisher of El Defensor magazine. Welcome back, Homero. How are you?
It's always a pleasure, Joe, to be here.
Well, we left off, and we're talking about how Hispanic, owned establishments like yourself, eldefensor.blogspot.com, plus the newspaper, plus the Facebook, is taking over politics. When you put out an announcement, strikes like thunder. Strikes like lightning, sounds like thunder, I'm telling you. And so that's the way, the same thing with KTMV, the might of it, where they used to discount us, where they used to say these shows don't matter. Now they're coming to us in droves and buying political time. And so we're talking about Salomon Ortiz. We're using that as an example of charismatic, great leader, rose from the ranks from the military to police, and then became sheriff, and then became congressman, all the way. His rise to power.
Yeah, but remember, there were unique historical times when he first ran for office as a young man for constable. Eventually, he won. He came from the military. They needed somebody. Here you had an extremely, extremely charismatic young man. People describe him as somebody that really moved the room, moved an audience. People felt a reason to be alive, to participate, and he always had this rally group of politiqueras around him. And women would make tamales and tacos and carne guisada. And,
oh, yeah.
And he would resolve the conflict. I remember in the barrios, I got to see him by telling them, because you know how women sometimes they get into it, the stepping on each other's toes or turf.
Right.
He would say, he would make them capitanas, captains of their own operation, and he created his own fundraiser. He got all the little churches. Extremely charismatic young man. Moved all the way up, but remember, these were the times where he emerged outside of Corpus Christi. We're talking about Robstown when he first ran. Then he ran for commissioner. Then he started connecting with the Corpus Christi, larger Nueces County power structure. Then he ran for sheriff, and pretty much he was tied in with the I'm pretty much with Hayden Head Senior, that at that time was a political boss. People describe him as a person that never ran for office, but extremely influential. If you showed up at his office, and many of the judges and so on did, you pretty much you would win for office, because here you had Hayden had a politico of politicos, at that time, where he got the business community and the political community together to pretty much get into economic development in Corpus Christi. All the parties that would benefit, they bankrolled banks, they bankrolled media, they bankrolled, if they were going to need a special project, they would get the parties that would benefit from it, and they would invest, and they had this huge war chest to work with that was used politically, much like the EDC, the legitimate organizations now that we have in cities. But back then they were unstructured. They were masterminded by individuals that were power brokers, and Hayden Head was one of the biggest back then, and in our area was Salomon. They joined together and dynamite. Here you had Salomon reached the highest peaks. Here's an individual that didn't finish high school, went on to get a GED in the Army, And the times were, you know, the common people needed a voice, and Salomon was there. But being a charismatic leader does have its downfalls, and that is sometimes your organization becomes too involved and center, it revolves around you, and you neglect to create a structure. A structure, I mean, different departments. One runs the you know, different areas of the campaign and so on and so forth. So the structure was lacking. It was more of something evolving around it. So it wasn't too surprising for me, analytically reviewing his history, that what happened in his political history this past election, it eventually was going to happen, because the structure was not there. And what is unique about a structure? Well, when you create an organization, you run for office, Hispanics run for office, and they create organizations much like LULAC created an organization, the GI Forum. Dr. Hector dies, you still have the American GI Forum. The structure's still in place, you still have the resources, you still have people running it. So the organization still kept alive over time. When a charismatic leader gets ill, dies, becomes removed from the people, that's pretty much it. You know, a Fidel Castro dying in Cuba, and boop, that's the end of the revolution in Cuba. So you're getting the picture pretty much of what I'm talking about. And so the logical step, and what I encourage many of the new people thinking out there forming organizations, is think organizationally. You know, form a structure that will last over time. All this energy just going to waste, you know, the day you die is a sad story. You know, if you invested in a structure, in an organization, and it's nurtured over time, imagine all the possibilities, and new people, new individuals coming in, new blood, recruiting, and the organization can be improved and perpetuated to help the community over a long period of time. Also, what happened with the Ortiz organization, and I'm sort of on a tangent here, is when you had a charismatic leader, the people that benefit from such an organization are few, are just the few people that are what you call in the in-group. Every political organization has something you call that forms naturally, whether it's official or not. There's something called a core group. And for lack of a better word, it's a core group is the nucleus, micro-nucleus of an organization, and only the members that are extremely trusted or come from generations of being loyal to those particular candidates are allowed in there. And then it sort of moves in concentric circles. The next level would be you're not as trusted as much. Then you have another level where you still participate in the organization, but you're not privy to the truly inside information. And what happened with Salomon is, you know, what do you do? Who benefits from his organization? Well, you saw a lot of relatives, a lot of people that were loyal to him, and but when you have a much bigger organization, then you would have, I guess, more people benefiting. So the big problem with me with Salomon is this, Joe, that Salomon's organization, that one of the few organizations, we're talking about an organizational structure that participated at the county level and would challenge the biggest organization in Corpus. I've always said that being funded by taxpayers' dollars is the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation. Here you have Lago's wife, that Lago pretty much is a mouthpiece on radio for that. Now his daughter works there, and you know, so here you have a structure that pretty much doesn't have any competition anymore. You know, here you have people getting insights into contracts.
Well, I mean, you have the rise of somebody like Art Granado, or I'm sorry.
Well, Well, our Granato did benefit. He's part of that organization. He did benefit to some extent. But many other organizations, a much bigger organization,
right?
Granato, well, he's a businessman, you know. I mean,
absolutely. So you see, there's business that benefits, but also people that have political agendas.
Yeah.
And you mix and marry corporations with politics, and we've seen when you do too much of that. That, you know, I didn't mean to interrupt you with Granato, but he's a perfect example that, you know, you have a flourishing business person, but at the same time, if you have too much corporation, too much politics marrying together, now corporations can build PACs, and they really are entities among themselves.
No, they're using the problem with those organizations, if we really, and that probably would be a subject for another show, is they're using taxpayers' money. The city gives them money, the county gives them money, the port gives them money. They have brought in less than 1% of job growth.
And all these
something
guys,
that happens naturally. So they really haven't brought in any jobs. In fact, they failed. They've gotten millions and millions of dollars. So what's going on with that organization?
Yeah, like the Destination Bayfront and stuff. I'm over there, you know, having dinner with a client. These guys walk up and they're having some meeting, right? Yeah. And then the guys come up to me and kind of acting like, you know, wearing their $1,000 suits and stuff. And I'm like, please, guys, yesterday you were in a corner with a tin cup, and now you're acting like you carry a cigar and you're big shots. And what? On taxpayer dollars?
Yeah, taxpayer
Not like guys like me and you who make an honest living, right? They make it on the taxpayer dollar. I said it. They're getting all these organizations together. They use taxpayer dollars to line their pockets.
Well, the sad thing
disgraceful.
Is, yeah, you have people like, you know, former, you know, manager of the Caller Times sitting on the EDC. I mean, if you read the Caller Times, and this is the surprising thing.